So share what you know session in the Talking Health Tech community. My name is Peter Birch. Today we're joined by Thom Soutter from Synapse Medical, and he is going to be taking us through the healthcare and business in the UAE. So, within the Talking Health Tech community, these share what you know sessions are a great opportunity for members to showcase something that they're interested and passionate, or at least knowledgeable about, that might benefit other members of the community. People can attend live, and they also access the recording from within the Talking Health Tech community. We'll probably make this one available to others as well as needed, because it's great getting an understanding of what's happening around the world in different parts of the space in healthcare, particularly when it comes to technology and business in general. So Thom, thank you so much for doing the session today.
Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here. And I appreciate it's a bit niche for your for the community, so hopefully I can bring something that people are going to learn from.
No, look, I think it's something that at one point or another is in the crosshairs of many organizations that are here in Australia looking at how they might go abroad, and then what opportunities might exist in other parts, and how would you do that? So that's always of interest, but also back the other way too. I think that, these types of opportunities are great to be able to bring, people with different experiences and backgrounds together to hopefully solve some meaningful problems. So I'm going to hand the virtual stage over to you, and you can take us through, and there'll be opportunities for questions as we go, and I'll no doubt interrupt you because I get excited by these things, but we'll also have it in the THC Plus community for people to write questions afterwards too, because I know that does happen as well. So I'm going to hand over to you, and away you go.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, just as ever with these things, just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect. Yeah, and I have to thank you for that wonderful avatar there. I mean, I would never wear a tie, but other than that, very, very happy with people comment on the likeness. So I thought I'd start with that. So thank you very much.
Woo.
And so thank you very much for having me today. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I wanted to give a bit of experience about our journey in the Middle East. We're obviously an Australian medtech company, but we have an office here as well. So apologies if some of this is stuff that people already know. I know that people viewing this, maybe after the event, there'll be different knowledge levels of this region. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction about Synapse. It's absolutely not a sales pitch. Hopefully everyone in the community knows a bit about us already. I was going to do an overview of the two biggest markets in this region, which is the UAE, which is where I live, and Saudi Arabia, which is a lot of business activity happening at the moment. Then focus on the UAE healthcare market, which is obviously of interest to all of us, the current situation, where they're looking to go in the future. And spoiler alert, a lot of the healthcare system issues here are the same as everywhere else in the world. Then going to talk a little bit about the risks and pitfalls that we found doing business in this region, give some advice around that in terms of insights that we've got, and then give a little bit more of a unique take on us here, which will hopefully, I hope, encourage other people to come and do the same journey, because there's a lot of opportunity. So hopefully that covers everything. In terms of us, pleased to meet you. Like I said, thanks for having me, Pete and team. Synapse Medical, international SME. We have an offices in Sydney, in India, and in Dubai. We deal with everything digital medical administration. So being part of this community has been invaluable for us. We have 4 key services: billing, clinical coding, transcription, and education. And all of those things are not only led by an extremely experienced team, but also wholly owned technology. So, we have a billing app that's prevalent all over Australia, an automated coding solution that we're taking worldwide. So that's a little bit about us. So we're digital health finance system experts. Again, we've got a team of around 100 people across those 3 sites that's been growing over the years. International expertise on all aspects of health financing. So, how can healthcare systems operate more efficiently? How can the spend go further? Our CEO is a lady called Margaret Foe, who's our lawyer and founder, who a lot of you in the community will know already. And recently, and I always say this, but rather her than me, but recently became Australia's only doctor of medical billing and compliance, and basically the Medicare go-to person. So We work with hospitals, clinics, insurers, so both sides of the fence, and government entities. As I'd mentioned, we've got 4 key services, and it's a hybrid model really of first-class delivery and innovative technology. So the reason I'm saying this is we entered this market with these things in mind, just to give people a bit of an idea about access. We've got clients in those various different countries, and we'll be adding to that soon. And in the last few years, we've made a transition from a service provider, traditional, to a medtech company. So thought I'd jazz it up with a few nice images. So there is a Pommy abroad. I'm very happy on top of Sydney Bridge with our team. So the office there was started in 2009. Margaret and our management team have been working in Medicare and billing and things for a lot longer than that, but Synapse as we know it, 2009, that's our management team there, looking very happy with themselves. 4 years later, with growth plans and international ambitions, the office was opened in Chennai in India, and that's now been open for 8-9 years. And there's a picture of our team there, and we've probably got around 80 or so staff over there at the moment. And then 5 years ago, 2016, a modest office was opened here in the Middle East. And look, I'm not going to try and write Synapse Medical in Arabic, but that was a very proud day when that went up on the office door there. So that's a little bit about our journey and where we are now. So we've been in this region for 5 years, and hopefully I'm going to bring you some knowledge of that time now. So the economy and the demographics. So I thought this might be useful. And again, apologies if these are things that people already know. I know that a lot of your members will be extremely well traveled and business savvy, but I wanted to focus on the 2 main markets in this region. And the reason why is because these are the 2 that most people hear about. They're probably the 2 you see on the news the most. You know, we've got the Expo, the Burj Khalifa, or anything that's being covered. And they're also the 2 areas that we do business. So, you know, say what you know, proofs in the title, share what you know. So the UAE, it's a very open and diversified economy, 2nd largest in the region. And what they've done incredibly well at over the last few years is they've diversified away from oil, and there's a huge non-oil sector now in terms of tourism, construction. You know, you've all seen the videos, you've all seen the buildings. There's a financial sector here now, and there's a growing, a burgeoning healthcare sector as well. It's ranked, now please don't ask me where I got these stats, because I realized this morning I can't remember, but it's ranked 16th in terms of 190 countries for ease of doing business. And it's one of the most multicultural countries in the world. And it's one of the reasons why I love living here. You know, you see a different person, a different nationality every single day. Population of around 9.5 million, and 88%, including myself and my family, of those are expats. So it just goes to show that, you know, everybody's moved here. There's not a huge local population. If you compare that to Saudi, and the reason why the comparison is relevant is because a lot of people do business with both. If you do business with one, the chances are doors are going to open with the other because of the location and because of how close the 2 are aligned in terms of business and healthcare and people in the positions there. So Saudi, oil-based economy with a strong government. It's the largest economy, and if you just jump ahead and look at the population, you can see why. You know, it's a large country. Diversification efforts are now in full swing, but a lot slower to do that than the UAE. So there's something called the Vision 2030, which is essentially trying to improve tourism, the business sector, the healthcare sector, and get innovation, foreign investment. That's actually ranked 62 out of 190 countries. So shows that despite the size and power, they're probably a little bit behind the UAE in terms of open to the world. And obviously, if you go there, you're going to predominantly deal with Saudis. So it's a very culturally single country in terms of that and religion. So I thought that would be a useful overview. In terms of the market in which we operate, now there's a lot of information on here. So I thought I'd just go through it, but obviously happy to disseminate slides afterwards if people want to look at this. So the UAE is one of the largest and most developed markets in the MENA region. You know, it's a young, wealthy population, and it's an insurance market, really, so that invites private companies to come here and invest, and there's a mix of government hospitals. So one thing they're constantly pushing here is the public and private mix. Each emirate, and I'll come to that, a bit of a geography lesson next, but each emirate in the country, and also the countries in the GCC region, they're all at various stages of maturity, and with that, you know, all the things that we're passionate about in the community in terms of standards, data sharing, protocols. The UAE government's committed to healthcare. So Annual healthcare expenditure was, I think, 17.6 billion last year, and it's forecasted to grow again up towards 23 billion in a few years' time. It's one of the fastest moving healthcare systems in the world in terms of pandemic. I know I'm speaking to an Aussie audience here, so I'm sorry to rub that in. But as of this week, as of a few days ago, the stats that were provided by the government were that 100% of the population had been at least one dose of an approved vaccine, and 91 of those were fully vaccinated, 91%, which is actually huge numbers if you think about it. And 32% had already been given their third jab, their booster, and I have to say I'm one of those lucky people. So the response to the pandemic was incredibly quick. This I actually stole from a book about healthcare systems around the globe, but build it and they will come. It's a mantra for this region. So in terms of, even if you look, taking it out of a healthcare context, for the Qatar World Cup that's happening next year, natural resources obviously propelled the country and the region into the global stage and raised ambitions. And I think what they've done very well, and this is also relatable to healthcare, is that they're trying to then take the best bits from around the world, learn from mistakes of others, and implement them into their infrastructure and the healthcare system. So staff come from over the world, and some of the changes that they're trying to, they have the benefit of being able to learn from others. So, bit of a geography lesson. And again, apologies if people already know this. I'm sure that a lot of people do. The Seven Emirates. So the UAE is made up of 7 Emirates, just to give you an idea on some of the sizes there. You know, you've got Abu Dhabi, clearly the largest, in Dubai. They're the 2 most powerful. And then you have the Northern Emirates, which complete the 7. And they recently, actually last week, celebrated the 50th anniversary, the joining of the Federation. And that was a huge celebration over here, which is on the 2nd of December every year. So just a little bit of understanding, and the reason why that's relevant I will come to. So the current landscape here is, as I've said, the UAE citizens make up about 12% of the market, and they currently have free healthcare. So local people have free healthcare, or if you work for a government entity, you're also entitled to some benefits in that regard. The World Bank rank the UAE as being second and third in terms of Dubai and Abu Dhabi in terms of medical tourism destinations. You know, there's a lot of 5-star facilities. They're trying to catch on with that, link hospitals with the same. There's a huge desire here, obviously hamstrung by COVID, but to be a medical tourism hub, and they're well on the way towards achieving that. Things operate here at a federal and an emirate level. So you have the Ministry of Health and Prevention, which is the overarching federal organization, and then you have 2 large local authorities, being Dubai Health Authority, who we know very well, and the Department of Health, who are for Abu Dhabi. There's other structures and regulators below them, but they're the key ones that I thought would be of interest to people to learn about. Healthcare system, as I said, it varies from emirate to emirate, which I will come to, and can be very confusing. So, and the different emirates also have different free zones. Again, I'll come to what a free zone is. It's a little bit different to how you would open a business or operate in Australia or the UK, where I'm from. And what they're trying to do at the moment is they're trying to consolidate what has been, much like anywhere else, you know, you hear these things in a topic of any healthcare system, but a fragmented system in terms of regulation, data consistency, and public and private partnerships. And again, shocker, the spoiler that I said, they're facing a lot of issues here that every healthcare system struggling with. You know, you've got an aging population with growing chronic disease burden, cancer, diabetes is very prevalent here, sedentary lifestyles, heart disease. So it's all the same things. Carrying on that theme, so a few things that I thought might be interesting and a bit different is actually just after I moved here, so 1st of January 2014, mandatory health insurance came into play. And what that meant is it meant that your employer is responsible for making sure that you have coverage and health insurance. So there might be co-payments, you know, you might go to the doctor and pay 10, 20%. But again, your employer is responsible for that. And that was a huge change, because it just meant that everybody, every worker, despite what sector they're in, had coverage, and everybody had the right to that. There is a hospital dominance here, much more so than you would see in the UK or Australia. So here, because of the facilities and the hospital infrastructure, it's very easy if you have an ailment or you want to get something checked to go on your insurance app, go directly to a specialist. So there's a large variety of choice depending on your insurance coverage, but obviously that comes with its own issues, because the triage and the primary healthcare, it's not really here. You know, you go and see your GP, there might be a referral, you know, the same in Australia. Here, it doesn't really work like that. And obviously that comes with its own challenges in terms of expenditure. There's a split of free zone and mainland operations. So in Australia, And again, Pete, and everyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but you might want to open a business, you decide your location, you get the permit, you get your licenses, you get certified, whatever it might be. Fine. Here, there's a difference between having an office in the mainland, so sort of out just in the main areas, or there's free zones. And these are a little bit like what they sound. So there's different business communities dotted all around Dubai, for example. So there's a sports city, there's a media city. Dubai Healthcare City, which is its own ecosystem, is actually the largest dedicated healthcare city in the world. And that is a whole city with hospitals, clinics, anything around healthcare. And they have their own rules and regulations just to convolute things a bit more. So there are different pockets for business transactions. AI and technology. So huge push to bring innovation, incubator programs, digital health, what we're all looking for, trying, as is everywhere in the world, to move to preventative measures over curative. Health and wellness spend, it's a very active community over here. They're trying to, make sure that the healthy are looking after themselves as well as people that have illnesses. Various government initiatives in health term programs, investment, regulatory reform, and all of that's ongoing. So with that in mind, one of the large authorities here, like I've said, is the Dubai Health Authority. And I'll just let you look at that because that's something that I stole from them earlier this year. And that was when they were talking about their key areas for this year. So public and private projects, infrastructure, technology and integration, huge. And I'll come to a big thing that's happening there in a moment. Education and research, attracting first-class research, and especially because post-COVID, precision medicine, innovation, equipment, and digital health. The drive towards AI, and we're hopefully going to be heavily involved in that as well. So with that, thinking about that, where do we go from here? So what does Nirvana look like? Where do they want to get to? So there's already an impressive healthcare ecosystem. And obviously the future here, what they want to do is they want to develop local talent. So they want local research, they want a primary sector to relieve some of the pressure and the spend on hospitals. And that has to be the aim. The government, they're liberalizing policies to attract foreign investment. They've diversified, as we've said, away from oil, and they want the healthcare standards and they want the healthcare industry to boom. So one of these, for example, just because it's relevant to what we do, is the data residency law, ICT law, I think it's 2019, was changed earlier this year. And essentially that means that if you meet criteria, encryption, redacted, your solution and data can be stored offshore. Amazon Web Services are coming here early next year. And essentially this is a whole boom to try and get innovation here, to try and get technology and to not exclude people or businesses from this market. Another huge change is there's been visa changes this year. So people used to come here, you'd be sponsored by your employer, you'd have a 1 to 3 year visa, whatever it might be, you would need a local sponsor. Now they're offering a 5 to 10 year golden visa for certain in professionals, certain sectors, multinational companies, of which obviously we're one. There's also now a 90-day visa, which is brand new in the last few months, which essentially, and I'll speak about Margaret because a lot of you know she's our CEO based in Sydney. It would enable her to come for conferences, to come for important meetings, to effectively drop in and out as the business required. So huge change and just a lot easier, making travel easier post-COVID. How can we get people back here? And also retirement's now possible here. It wasn't before, so people would work. Actually topical, my father-in-law and mother-in-law worked here in Abu Dhabi. And then when they retired or wanted to retire, they left. Whereas now you finish your work, if you have certain criteria, you're able to stay. And that's going to obviously boost the economy as well. So residency is being offered to certain categories of people that the UAE would like to retain here, which I think is a very smart move. Reality, I'll just quickly talk about this because again, I thought it was topical for an Australian audience. It's a digital healthcare platform that's just being announced here, and effectively think of it like My Health Record. So it's going to transform the landscape in terms of a centralized function, medical records, data, delivery integrated between facilities. So that has just been announced and that's going to be rolled out. Well, it is being rolled out currently. And again, that all feeds into AI, e-health systems. And what they want to do is make it a lot more collaborative and easier to navigate that framework, the Seven Emirates, all the different authority bodies. So with that in mind, and I thought about this long and hard, and there's a couple of slides for this. And I suppose what I don't want to do is to be too negative because it's been a hell of a journey here. But what I thought I'd be very comprehensive with these, Pete, is I think maybe there's people in your community. I know a couple actually that are potentially looking at this market and thinking, oh, do we take the plunge? What should we do? And I just wish somebody had given me and Margaret this list, a few years ago. So I thought, well, no, actually, this is positive, but I will try and make it as positive as I can so that people don't get scared off. So And some of this basic, and you would say, well, of course, if I'm going to open a business or open a new branch of my business, I would do these things. But I think it's still very useful to spell them out. So do your research. Each case is individual and unique here. And this market absolutely is not one size fits all. So that's positive and negative. And I'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But you have to be clear about what you're going to be doing here. There's license restrictions. So as I'd said, it's not just we're going to get a hospital, this is the site, here's the license, whatever. That might be dumbing that down considerably, but here there's lots of licenses available. You have to list your type of activity. Do you want to be on the mainland? Do you need a local sponsor? There's laws around ownership of companies that's changed that are enabling that to be a bit easier now, but still you have to be clued up on that. Free zones, and I'll come to ours in a minute because I think it's a very good story, but there's different rules with each. Where do you want to be? You don't want to be a digital health company in Sports City. Why would you want to do that? But help and documents and costs vary between them and vary quite significantly. So you might get one piece of advice and just go, oh, we have to be in Healthcare City. Of course we do. But look around, see what's there, see what's right for your business. There's a lot of misconceptions about how if you're in a free zone, you can only do business with other people in your free zone. Legally not allowed. It's not in practice. There's a lot more to it. So take advice than that. Again, sounds a very daft thing to say in business, but be prepared to be frustrated. Document processing here, honestly, can be an absolute nightmare. We were heavily prepared. Every time you try to renew your visa, whatever it might be, it can be very difficult and sometimes not make much sense. So I think what we found is sometimes there's a lack of ownership. So it's gone to that department, it's gone for printing. And that has to lead to sometimes to a higher spend. You're delayed in terms of opening things, getting things done. So you have to be prepared for that. There's a different concept of time here and moving things forward. Banking. So I should say personal banking, I've never had any issues, but in terms of business banking, it can be convoluted. It can be awful. There's things sometimes happen without explanation and people are thinking, oh my goodness, what? But you have to just mean that you've got the right account manager, you've taken the right advice, you're with the right bank, seek advice. Just be careful with that. Nothing terrible has happened to us, but I'm just saying banking can sometimes make no sense. But this department's just told me to go here and you're telling me. So you have to be prepared for that and make sure you've done your due diligence. Regulatory compliance, again, all I would say, and hopefully this forms part of that, and I'm always very happy to help, but make sure you've got people in place that you can bounce ideas off. Austrade and the New South Wales government have been invaluable to us in that sense and continue to be so. Sometimes they will be hearing about things before we are and vice versa, and you can bounce ideas off each other. Plug and play. Now, hold our hands up. We made a bit of an error with this, and you learn as you go, but people do arrive here and think, well, my product's incredible, it's going to work here. The system and the people and everything is different here. Funding's different. Services need to be adapted. So one thing to keep in mind is I showcase the 4 services that we have that we're very proud of, but we only currently offer 3 in this region. And that was a learning. Our billing app, it's completely tailored to Medicare in the Australian market. We could ultimately bring it here in future, but why would we right now? So just have to be aware that actually just plugging and play is not going to work. You have to be adaptable. Big players can be favored, but I do think that's changing. As I've said, there can be certain things where you say, well, you can't get this loan or you can't do this if you don't meet these criteria, but you can't meet that criteria without clients, etc. So it can be quite difficult, but what that sometimes does is forces a smaller entity to seek a partnership with a bigger one, which again can be very positive. But I think this is changing. There's a sea change there at the moment. COVID-19 has changed things for all of us, right? So there's a shift towards innovation, away from some of the bigger companies that can be slow to pivot. So new data laws will massively help this. Amazon Web Services opening 3 data centers here is huge. Government tenders, like anywhere else. I mean, I've put this on here, but we've done enough government tenders in Australia to know how difficult they can be as well. So it takes time. So what they want to see here is they want to see a commitment. They don't want to see, there's been too many people here in the past that have come fly by night and gone. They want to see a commitment. They want to see on the ground action that you actually here to make a difference. Seasonal work. And again, I'm sure it's relevant for elsewhere. Australia, the UK, December, January would be quiet, but here there's different peaks and troughs. You have the Eid holidays, you have Ramadan, you have summer when in July and August it's so hot, a lot of people just choose to take vacation then. So you just have to be aware of those things. And different rules apply in each part of the UAE. So come here with a clear idea in mind. Are you going to go for all 7 Emirates? Are you going to go for one? What are you looking to do? So insights into our experience. And again, some of these are basic, but I think very, very relevant. Networking. So find people that you trust. And one piece of advice that I would give, and this sounds maybe odd as well, but find people that if you met them in Australia, you'd work with them in Australia. And like I've said, the culture here is different and things are different in that sense, but it's about building relations more than networking. Don't rush in. Come here, meet people, think, what are they offering? Are they a useful partner for me? We have wonderful partners here now, but it took probably a couple of years, as anything, to find the right people and find the right location for us. Ask questions. Everyone here has been through the same process. Everyone here has come here having not been born here, not lived here. As I've said, 88% are expats. I moved here with a suitcase and a bag of my golf clubs, about 8 years ago. Learn from their experiences. Just ask questions. Nobody is going to say that it's a daft question. Everybody is going to want to help you because they've been through the same experience. LinkedIn and WhatsApp, again, very daily things now, but they're going to become your best friends here. Nurture them, make them part of your routine. WhatsApp, a lot of quick things happen dynamically here. Just ask a quick question. I'm on WhatsApp in terms of business connections and just asking questions, bouncing ideas off as much as maybe emails, LinkedIn, etc. Find opportunities. You have to be patient. So as I've said, people want to see commitment to the market and long-term thinking. So I've seen a lot of people come in here and be aggressive. They turn up at a conference, say, we've got this, bang, bang, bang. People will lose interest. Have a long-term vision. By all means, say, I think we've got some quick wins for you now. These are what they are, but they could ultimately lead to this in the longer term. It's a small community here. The healthcare community isn't vast, 9 million people in the country itself, and first impressions count. So I wouldn't say it's not a numbers game here. It's about finding the right fit for you, and then business will flow organically. Marketing, take your time to speak to people and build your proposition. Don't rush in. And I'm going to talk towards the end about something that we have here, which is called Advanced Health, which I'm very proud of, and will hopefully give people an idea of a different way of doing things. Tips for success. So look, again, a lot of people in the community, everyone will know these things already, but understand their problems and present a solution. Don't just come in and say, this is what I can do. Look how great we are. This is the success we've had in Australia. Say, look, this is a pressure that you're currently facing. This is how I believe that I can solve it. Be flexible. So again, don't just come in and say, this is an off-the-shelf product. Here's the pricing. You're going to have to be prepared for a sudden change in direction or government tenders dropped. I'll give you one example, and it's a great one. They've changed from the 1st of January, the week, which is huge here. So decades of years of being Sunday to Thursday from the start of next year, just for the government sector at the moment, but it's going to be a week like you would know, Monday to Friday. So they've just changed that. They know that it helps with international business, and now businesses have to adapt. You have to come in, maybe can we also do pricing in a different way? Could we have a reseller? Can we do revenue share? Is it price per episode, fixed business model, whatever it might be? Keep that in mind, that you have to come here prepared to shift direction. Be determined and be present. Like I said, you're going to get setbacks, and we've opened a business in India as well. It's the same situation. Partners want to see that commitment. I can't stress that enough. Feet on the ground. Have an open mind. So Dubai opens up other markets in the region. We came here 5 years ago with just an idea to do business in Dubai. A few months later, at Arab Health, which I'll talk about, we signed a reseller agreement with a partner in Saudi. And we also came with 4 services. Like I said, now we have 4 services internationally, and they're working very well, but we have different ones for different countries. We have to be flexible. And one thing that I thought was really pertinent, because it's topical, it's really happening. There's a delegate mission happening in Abu Dhabi right now, is the UAE's opened up trade with Israel, which is a huge political step forward. And this presents new opportunities, as Israel, from what you read and what you see, is very technologically advanced in terms of digital health, exceptional health infrastructure. They're ahead of the game, basically. I think they're kind of leading the game from a lot of the stuff that I read. So very interesting. There's going to be things that you think, oh, actually, this is now a fantastic opportunity for us. So the Middle East, and I didn't want to give a geography lesson, but one thing that's really good to know here, especially I think in Australia, where sometimes, especially during COVID, maybe you felt a bit isolated, is here is a hub. Geographically speaking, I think there's something, and don't quote me on this, but it's like you can get to 80% of the world within 4 hours, and 80% of the world within 8 hours, and 40% of the world within 4 hours, or something ridiculous like that. It's an absolute hub. It's got the busiest airport in the world now, I believe. It's overtaken Heathrow in London. So just keep that in mind. You come here, actually, you're going to have all these opportunities almost on your doorstep as well. Again, something just to break up the monotony of me talking at you. That's our partnership in KSA that we signed, and we've done business over there. They've actually adopted the Australian modifications of clinical coding, which you would find very interesting. So again, come here and opportunities will present themselves. Our experience here, and look, it's a very exciting market. I've lived here for 8 years on a personal level. It's a diverse market. You will learn a lot. You will learn stuff every single day. It's a wonderful gateway, like I said, not just to the UAE, but other jurisdictions that maybe you'd not considered, Israel now being one of them, right? You've got a reseller. We now have reseller agreements in Kenya, which we never anticipated, in the US, which is through a Dubai partnership, in Saudi, and we're looking to add more countries to that as we go as well. So it's become a regional hub for us, and having a regional hub in the Middle East is not a bad thing for lots of reasons that I've explained. The time zone actually has helped us a lot. So I deal with a lot of our doctors, our clients, and client facing, but I deal with them from here. I can speak to them in their evening. It works for them after they understand our business model. So it's actually made our business more attractive, I think. We're more well known now and recognized. We've built long lasting relationships. And again, I'm teasing you with this advanced health thing, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. And actually, despite being here for 5 years, it really does feel like next year is our big year. It's going to be a huge year for us here. There's a lot happening in the background. And obviously, we look forward to breaking those news in the community. But I'd love to tell people more about that. And if people want to reach out and see if they think there's space for their business, I'd be very happy to have those conversations. So I spoke, and I'm going to end now just with a few slides about us in the UAE. And again, just to make it personal and hopefully tangible so people can see it and relate to it a bit more. I mentioned all the free zones that are here and all the different areas where you can do business. So we actually moved 2.5 years ago to Dubai Science Park. Now, Dubai Science Park is its own free zone. It's got health and pharma sectors. There's an environment for research. So not necessarily, when you look at it on paper, a natural fit for digital administration that we do. But having looked at it, known the market, been here for a few years, we decided actually it was the perfect fit for us. So just this is the research I'm talking about. Find the right place for you, find your home. And the reason we moved there, the reason we chose that business park, is we felt it was a good fit for us. The reason being, we'd established key relationships with people in that community over our initial 2-year period, people that we felt we could work with. It was cheaper, just to be really blunt. It was cheaper in the process in terms of a platform online, visa process, getting documents done was a lot easier. And we thought, fantastic, we'll go for this. It has a community feel. And despite being an international company, I think one of the things that runs through our company is that family feel. It is that community. So there's events, there's referrals taking place. And then the big thing for us was that when we moved here and, we're trying to establish this office, we realized that aside from the big events, the big international events, there weren't that many valuable networking events. So there's nothing like Talking HealthTech Community. My God, I wish there were, right? So we were struggling to meet the right people. And, you can go to so many networking things. We've all done them. And you sat next to people that are lovely, but they're nothing to do with what you do. So what we decided to do is we decided to create our own. So we created Advanced Health. We are co-founders in that initiative. It is myself. It's a friend of mine who runs a pharmaceutical communications and media company. And Dubai Science Park are the third partner. So we pitched it to them. They loved the idea. And we needed that local influence, we think. And we went with it. So we created it in 2018. I think we had an event last week on women's health, and we've now done 19 events. Essentially, it's an education series. So it's not salesy. It's a different topic each time. It's to just give something back to the community, give them some knowledge. It's not to do with our day-to-day. So it's something I do outside of normal hours. And the reason being, what we thought if people could come to a no-pressure environment where they're not paying to attend, we have the space at Dubai Science Park. We get great speakers every time who want to, impart their wisdom. People would come to that and business would grow organically. And that community has grown. I think we've got 2,000 people that have attended or on our mailing list now. And it's become its own ecosystem. Business is referred through it. So very proud of it. And it's something that we did here to try and crack the market, I suppose. We wanted to be more seen. We wanted to be out there. We wanted to meet people. And it's absolutely worked for that purpose. So this is it. This is the marketing, and this is us. It's a healthcare initiative that we have. We're looking to do events every couple of months. We went virtual, as did we all, in COVID. Louise Schraper, I think a lot of you will know from the AIDH Institute. She's spoken at our events before. Margaret's spoken on our data event. We do a different topic, as I've mentioned, and we're always open to ideas. So Pete, I'm going to say this and call you out live. I think that we should definitely do something with the Talking Health Tech community around this. We'd love to do a virtual event there, maybe a series or something along those lines. So this is just an idea, of something we've created and something that's been going from strength to strength. Again, lovely little plug there. There's a picture of, so Marwan is our Dubai Science Park Managing Director. He's the third co-founder. And there's just some pictures of some of the events that we've done in the last few years. So I'm going to finish there. I think I've talked for enough. So look, I know this is going to be put out afterwards, and I'm very happy to connect on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to answer any questions in the community, try and be as active as possible, make any useful introductions. The things that I would mention is, look, I'm very obviously happy to talk about Dubai Science Park or Advanced Health. Two things I would mention, if this has maybe spiked a curiosity in this market, is that Arab Health is one of the biggest healthcare conferences globally, and it happens every year, and it's back to its normal January slot next year. And then going straight from Arab Health next year is the Healthcare Week at the Dubai Expo. And the Expo, I'm sure you've all seen, go and check out the videos. It's this huge sort of business fantasy land, a bit like Disneyland, but in terms of every country's represented. And there's going to be a lot of things happening here. So if you wanted to get an additional flavor, what I would suggest is check out those two events, because that will give you a good idea as to what's happening here. And if you can get to those events, perfect. I realize next year might be a bit soon in terms of everything that's going on globally, but something to keep in mind. So I hope that's given a bit of an overview of this market, our journey, and thank you very much for listening.
Love it. No, Thom, thank you. That was amazing. And all of that geography was required from my side, so I appreciate that. No, and that really set the scene. I wasn't aware of, like, I knew the UAE in particular had a high proportion of expats, but I didn't realize it was, what did you say, 88% or something like, like
yeah, it's a huge number, isn't it?
Yeah. So it sounds like then, the 12% of local residents receive free healthcare, and then you are, as of recently, you receive your healthcare through your employer. In terms of then costs for employer, does that create, like, I know, say in other parts of the world where it's the employer funded healthcare, costs blow out, like it becomes disproportionate. Are those the types of issues that arise, or is it something else in relation to?
No, I think it's a relevant point. I think your employer probably has to set those parameters, because everybody has a different health coverage and different rules, in terms of the package, the tier that you're able to have. So I think it depends on what your employer wants to offer you. There's no sort of, there's a minimum standard, but in terms of, I think as long as you know the employees that you're looking to have, costs shouldn't spiral, and the majority of things are then paid for that year up front, and then the costs are taken care of. So I suppose in terms of budgeting, wouldn't be that many nasty surprises, but you have to be very transparent with your employees about what package you're willing to offer them.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Is this like
sponsored, you see? Sorry, Aidan.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump on the back of that question. So do they work similarly to the US, where you have to go to certain hospitals, and you have to be treated by certain doctors under like an insurance scheme type thing?
So I think if you're lucky enough to have an upper band of insurance, you can pretty much go where you want. But what I would say is, so for example, my insurance, I have an app on my phone. If there's something that I want to go and check out, I'm able to type in my location, the doctor, and it will say, you can go here, and it'll say whether you're covered or not. So I think it's that. And then obviously, like everything, you get your preferences, you get the hospitals that you like, you get your clinics. So then when you renew your insurance the following year, you say, all good, I don't care about anything, but I want King's Hospital on that list. And if they say, yeah. So it's always, you need to check. So sometimes I wouldn't take anything for granted. We've had an episode here where you try to renew an insurance, and suddenly the hospital you loved wasn't on there. And if you'd not checked that, then you would have toddled along to your next appointment. And so you have to just be aware of those things. But everything is transparent in terms of the app and the network coverage that you have.
Something I'm watching for as well is the point you raised around partnerships with, like, opening up business with Israel, because that's what I'm want to look at more next year and beyond, is just healthcare innovation in Israel. I'm conscious that technology advancements are much greater there, but I need to get a better handle on that. So that sounds like it would be open up some exciting opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, so there's been a couple of delegate missions, and there was one housed at Dubai Science Park actually. And look, from the meetings I've had with people, the Israeli consulate and a few other people that came over there, the innovation's perfect for this market, and actually it would be a perfect topic for what you guys are doing in the community, because it seems like they're very savvy in terms of that and making sure that everything is as efficient as possible. So yeah, I mean, look, it's early days with that. It's watch this space, but absolutely, it's exciting. It's exciting for the next few years, I think.
Yeah.
I I was got a question about like Synapse going into an area like that. So when you guys, what were like the big, the big benefits of going into a place like UAE when you first started? Because it seems like a lot has happened after you've already been there.
Yeah, true. Good question. So look, I think, well, like any great business relationship, it was a chance meeting actually with Margaret and her husband at a conference in the UK. So go figure that one. So, the international business. And Margaret was at a point where Synapse needed to expand. The solutions that we had, can be global, and that's what we're trying to do. And the UAE seemed like a very vibrant market. I'd actually lived here before, so knew a little bit about the market. So we weren't coming in completely blind. And I think it was a driver. And as I said, I think one of the biggest things here that you can't really get anywhere else is the location. Even during that time, direct flights to Sydney now, which yes, it's 14 hours, but you can kind of get anywhere from here. So I think if you've got a business that you're looking to expand globally, at a market that's developing, there's expenditure on the rise here, there's money, there's opportunities to be had. So I think it ticked a lot of those boxes. Obviously, we've learned lessons along the way, as you do, quite a lot of lessons. But I think in terms of that, I think they were the main drivers. We had an office in India, of course, which is another place that's very close to here. So that worked for us as well.
Nice. Look, Thom, I'm sure there's going to be other questions that will come to mind. I've taken some notes, which I'll share in the community, and I've really enjoyed that just as an overview, getting an understanding of what's happening in different parts of the world. Part of the challenge can be often, just reading this and out of context can be really hard. So thank you for being able to put it in context for, Australian market and a global audience as well as we grow the THT Plus community. So, as always, appreciate, yours and Margaret and the team's contribution to the community as well. And yeah, I'm keen to explore some of these opportunities with advanced health as well. Like, it makes so much sense.
Absolutely. So, look, what you guys are doing is fantastic, and we're happy to support. And actually, it's given me some ideas for here that we should definitely collaborate on. Cool. So thank you for having me. And what I will do, Pete, is I will make sure this goes to the advanced health community. So there's about 2,000 eyes that are going to see your Santa hat and see a bit more about what you guys do. Right. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Excellent. I wouldn't have worn it if I didn't expect 2,000 people to see it. So yeah. I'm glad there's.
There you go. Give it the audience it deserves.
All right. Look, I really appreciate it, Thom. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Speak to you soon.